Is this lens sharp wide open? This is one of the questions that I get asked all the time. This is the Fujifilm X100VI with the version 2 lens. It goes down to f2. There's a 40 megapixel sensor. So the combination of all those things, does it create or produce a sharp image? So I have a bunch of sample images to go through with you so you can see for yourself if it's sharp enough for your liking. All right, so I got my readers on, so you know I mean business. So let's open up this first image. So this one was from a recent job that I was on, and I had to do some product shots. So looking at this pyramid, and I was at f2.0, so this super shallow depth of field. You can see the Magic Mind is super sharp right there. And then the bottle to the left was slightly behind, so it's not as sharp. It's a little bit out of focus. And to the right and left, those are both slightly out. The middle one is sharp focus, and then the top one's out of focus. So at f2, you do have a really shallow depth of field. So looking around the background, you have the nice bokeh. It's really satisfying bokeh looking at just this head of the statue. It's very circular, it's very soft, very pleasing to the eye. I love the way this shot came out. Moving on to the next image, I wanted to add a human element to the product shot, so I just have my friend grab one of the bottles, and you can see just the Magic Mind is really sharp. I'm really impressed with the quality of this lens, the sharpness of it, and you can see just because the plane of focus, the bottom bottles are not in the plane of focus, so they're just blurry, and that's exactly what you're trying to get with an f2 aperture. Moving on to the next, so this is a wider shot. I wanted to include a wider shot just so you could see. If you zoom into the face, which is what I was focusing on, she is really sharp. You could see her hairs here. The zipper is really sharp. All the way down her body, everything's in focus. And then you look to the background and you can see, you can still make out that it's a person. You can tell what they're doing, but you can't see any details. And again, the bokeh is incredible. It's really satisfying to look at. It is circular. I love the way this lens looks wide open. So the next image, I accidentally moved the aperture ring into f2.2. I wanted to include this just because you can see he's sharp in focus here, but then if you look at the items in his hand, that's out of focus. You can't read what it says, and then this little bag is slightly out of focus. So you, even at 2.2, you still get a really narrow depth of field. This is, I mean, I'm really impressed with this camera. I'm really impressed with how it's doing wide open, or almost wide open. So this next shot, I wanted to include it because you can see she's not fully sharp here. It's slightly out of focus. The focusing plane, it looks like it was front focusing a little bit. Still sharp where it did focus, but I feel like it's still a usable shot, even though it's not fully tack sharp. It doesn't have critical focus on her eye. I still love the shot. I wanted to include it because part of shooting in really low apertures means that you're gonna miss focus from time to time. And even though it's a miss, I still really like this shot. This next shot, you can see it didn't lock onto the eye. The focus came onto her glasses frame, but the glass is totally out of focus. Her fingernails are totally out of focus. It's just, I don't know, I'm blown away by the quality of this lens. I really love just the way that this camera renders these photos and these colors. Okay, so here's a wider shot, more of a landscape, I guess, or a cityscape. But I wanted to include this because you can see even at f2, when you zoom in, the letters are sharp, and even at an angle, it's sharp all the way through. So when you're on a wider scene, this lens is still really sharp, and I'm super impressed. So the next one is the poppies. So here I just wanted to have some foreground elements like this flower here. I wanted it to be super blurry, and then I was focusing in the center of the flowers, and you can see the center flowers are really razor sharp, but it's a super shallow depth of field. So you only get really sharp edges on the middle flowers, and then everything else is out of focus. The background, super blurry, super out of focus. I really love the way this shot turned out. I love the way that this camera renders colors. By the way, I'm using the Reala Ace profile, and that was on every single one of these photos that you've seen so far. The next one is ISO 1600. So typically when you move your ISO up, you start to lose sharpness anyway, just because of how cameras work. And if you look at the title of the book, everything's really sharp. It still looks really detailed. Up to the cat's eyes, you can see you start to lose a little bit of detail. You lose detail in the fur, and the background is completely out of focus. So what do you think? Was it sharp enough for your liking? Would you consider picking up one of these cameras? I know it is something to consider because this lens is fixed to the camera. You can't switch it out for a different lens if you don't like the quality of it. I have to admit, I was scared to shoot this camera wide open in the past because of the focusing issues, but I found with the recent firmware update, it hits focus a lot more frequently, and I really do like the way the bokeh looks in the background at f2. So it is something that I'm going to add to my workflow in future shoots. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.